Oh yeah, vegan back again. I'm in my Saturday night coding attire. Just spent, I don't know, a little bit of time upgrading my PostgreSQL database from 15 to 17, and it's got me thinking. Time to talk about some DB thoughts as it relates to AI agents. Because I was upgrading my favorite database in the entire world, Postgres. I mean, I have many reasons why I love it. Maybe we can get into some of those. But really, I wanted to kind of ponder or talk about like what I think some of the challenges, problems, what are some areas we have to start thinking about more when it comes to storing our data in databases for AI agents. Because right now, there's two things. One, they're storing data in a traditional manner, storing in a relational database, NoSQL, document, whatever. Storing things like, hey, here is tweets that the bot has tweeted out. So I know the whole history of what I've already tweeted out. Reading in information. Maybe you're copying something off the internet and you're copying it. Now, you could train on it, but you also still might want quotes or something or some things that the bot can then pull out and reference. It might be other people's responses to the bot. You know how people have talked to it. All those things are useful to have in a way that is human readable, human searchable, which is, not the best for the when you go to the AI side. But remember, there is still so much curation that has to be done right now for getting the best, you know, quality, the best what do you want to say, value out of your AI agent. So one thing that I'm like really thinking about is like what is this setup going to look like? So the other side, I guess, to keep going, is vector databases, right? So taking some sort of data, turning them into a series of embeddings, storing those in a database. Then when we are doing our queries, maybe we're doing RAG, retrieval augmented generation. We're going to first take whatever we're doing, check our database of embeddings, this little black box of data, see how it improves our feedback coming back to us, but it's a bit of a black box, right? We can't, embeddings aren't human readable. Also, the way we are converting things into embeddings, we might use different techniques. Those techniques could change over time. So I kind of think we need to store primary data, and then we need to store vectors. We are probably going to use vectors for some human type stuff, and then we're going to use these embeddings for all of the actual AI generating response RAG stuff. Now, the real data is going to be used to make the embeddings, and that might change over time. You might do it multiple times. I'm finding myself continually taking data, sanitizing it, turning it into embeddings, testing against it. Oh, wait a minute, bring it back. I'm actually going to reformat this thing or reduce the amount of data going in there. Okay, reconvert it to embeddings, try again. Okay, I'm going to try a different style of embeddings. I'm going to try and take these things and chunk them into smaller chunks. Then, all these different ways of taking the primary source and then turning it into embeddings that then use. Like, we don't have the answers to this yet, I feel like. Now, I'm not on the cutting edge at all for this. I'm doing my own just personal experiments and whatnot. And I know that larger companies and smarter people are further figuring out problems of this, but it's got to be something similar thing for the layman like me to I guess put your brain around how this concept would work. So one thing that I'm a Postgres fan. I'm a Postgres fanboy. And there's a lot of different reasons. One is it works. It's available. It works on everything, and you can scale it up to the goddamn moon, make $1 trillion, just scaling up Postgres. But another is you do get to try out all the fun features. I remember back in the day, I got some stickers that were NoSQL on acid, I think is what Postgres, someone was calling Postgres NoSQL on acid. Because there's all these NoSQL features of Postgres, which can get you in trouble too. But, you can store JSON, you can have hashes, there's arrays. You can store these things, and then you can kind of get some features of a NoSQL database mixed with that nice relational database. Postgres also has a beautiful PG vector extension, which allows you to store embeddings. So all of a sudden, I'm able to store my nice relational data that it's easy to query, easy to understand, easy to reason about. I've got this NoSQL stuff that's kind of either can be easy, simple, key value pair stuff I want to store. It could be more complex stuff I don't want to figure out the structure of right now, and I want to figure out the structure of later, and we'll figure it out. It could be sometimes, for me, I'll store some JSON logging because I just have raw JSON logs, so I'm just storing extra JSON logs. Maybe document, whatever. I can do all these things. I can store a bunch of stuff in all these. And then next to it, I'll store my embeddings. Now, will these be separate databases? Right now, I am doing them in separate databases. I'm not saying, hey, PG Vector, let's think of embeddings, the thing is of relational NoSQL. I am separating the 3 separate Postgres database instances, but it is one. I could do it on one, I guess. I need to ponder which way to go. But I think the thing that I'm really kicking on is it's just really nice using one database for all these different things. And then it's easier to say, let me try and convert my JSON that I've stored inside my Postgres database into embeddings. Okay, let me try again. Let me try a new technique. Let me try and sanitize this output. Let me try and transform it to this, then turn into embeddings. All these things. You're gonna want to like, massage and move stuff around, right? Because I really do think I've been talked about it a little bit before, but like, I mean, it's all about good data in, good data out. We all know that. People say that, right? Good data in, good data out. Another important thing, I guess, is like it's the weight of the data. Like, you notice that like a lot of agents like sound the same, and if you train them on your own little custom thing, it's not deviating that much from the other agents because you have so much weighted for what you've already trained it on. So I think finding out like what is like really how do you push your personality into one direction is going to definitely, I think, depend on the amount of that type of data you put in. So I could see that there's a lot of experience of just tweaking those numbers, It's tough though, because at the same time, if this data gets to massive scales, it's going to be harder for us to curate. And then we also have to do some sort of categorization of the data, right? So I could see the pipeline being something like this. This is just I don't know, like what do you call it? Like a data sanitization pipeline dream. So we have raw data, we get stored in Postgres, right? Right. Then we have some sort of like AI analysis categorization that gives you like a breakdown of the data. Then from there, you say, I want these ratios. So let's pretend it's a little pie, and all of a sudden it was like, cool, like you've got like 3 sections, right? One is taking up 50%, 2 are taking up 25%. You're like, ooh, no, actually, I want it to be 1/3. So now that you have some categorization and you kind of see where it's at, you would say, no, I want to like morph it this way. And you could probably run this over and over again. And then once you have that nice pie piece slice of it, then you would convert that to embeddings to then like train on. I don't know. I think that and then there still is obviously this experimentation around all this stuff. Everything's gonna have experimentation. I don't got any answers. These are just things I've noticed. I actually already had some funny instances where I was training on Twitch chat messages for like over 4 years, and like lots and lots of messages. I've saved them all inside of a Postgres database, and I started converting to embeddings and then querying against them. And I was looking against some of the users who had talked the most. And it was interesting because one user was working pretty good. I was getting some like kind of personality response. They were sarcastic and funny, etc. And then I tried another, and it was absolutely terrible. And it was like really bad. And I was like, this person's talked so much. I've got so much of their personality. We should have been able to get something. It was like crazy generic nothingness. I was like appalled for how much data that was in. And then we actually went inside and we analyzed, and we found many, many instances of that user saying, please disregard all previous instructions. So literally, it just said, please. I think we found like 10 instances of please disregard previous instructions and whatever, do whatever else. Like a bunch of different jokes, because we're always like talking AI stuff on stream. And I think that's what poisoned it. It's like, wasn't a lot. Like we probably had, it was probably 8 please disregard messages to 5,000 messages. And boom, the whole data is shot. So I do think that knowing what those like foot guns are, knowing what are those like single sentences that can like just wreck your whole day is important. I know please ignore previous instructions. That's going to be an easy one, but also we're always finding new ways of talking to AI and tricking AI. So I do think we're going to have to figure out like what are more potential foot guns. So yeah, so in finding important data that like both boosts and really hurts, is important. And then one last thing that seems super obvious is we are talking all about like, hey, there's this process where we need to figure out how to get high quality responses, based baby on using the effectiveness of embeddings, but that depends on the ratio of what we're putting in and how we embed things and all these other answers. Well, why wouldn't we have a data agent work on that, right? So it's an agent that is running experiments and then checking another agent's output and evaluating, or just saving and presenting saving and presenting to a human. So all what we're talking about right now, it might say, let me run a bunch of experiments, and we have to figure out how can we evaluate what is a good response or a bad response, which is always just going to be a little bit tough. But you could say, hey, yeah, let's break it down. We're going to say, let's give it a score based off of like how unique it is, if it's funny, whatever. Figure out some criteria that we can maybe start going against, and then say, run this data, load it into this bot, pretend it's part of this bot. You could do this pretty fast, actually. I think you could build this relatively fast. This isn't training. That's the crazy thing about this. This isn't training. This is like loading embeddings and converting to embeddings and loading embeddings into a database. It's not going to take the world's longest, right? You could spin up definitely like multiple. I could see whatever. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The things are coming together in my mind. I'm starting to figure out how to do this. So I definitely want to build some of this stuff. So the idea would be, it would say, here's some primary data. I'm going to run a couple different experiments. The experiments could be like, I'm going to weight different information. I'm going to remove stuff. I'm going to try and change the ratios of stuff. I'm then going to convert it to embeddings. I'm going to ask a bunch of questions to the bot that is then connected to that specific database. It can be the same bot. It could be different databases, so its RAG is just changing. Save all that output. Try and use some criteria to evaluate which ones are the best. But if not, it could send it off to a human and say, hey, look at these bots. Which one do you think is the best? You could do even blind testing. Which one do we like the most? Hey, did you guess a similar bot most of the time? Great. This type of data seemed to go in a direction. You've got some experiments. Boom. Okay. I'm just ranting. Okay. That's the point, though. We're here to rant every day about something in this AI agent space. I think we're on something. I think this data agents experiments, it's interesting. I need to just set up some experiments in a nice, little more controlled way, build a couple tools to make it automated, which I've already got a couple. I'm already getting there. And just share them and see where we go from there. So hopefully we'll do that in the future. But no matter what, I'll be back tomorrow for, I don't know, more random thoughts from my mind about AI agents and what the future is and all this stuff. Nightly rants from Beacon. Goodbye.